Hey, have you ever wondered what the making of Dragon Ball Z looked like? Nowadays, Dragon Ball is a huge staple of pop culture. But before it could get to that point, there had to be hundreds of chapters and animated episodes made with dozens of people involved in nearly every step of the process. In 1991, around the time Goku was still missing after his battles on Namek, Shonen Jump began releasing a special issue of what would eventually become V-Jump, prior to the magazine's proper launch in 1993. You probably know V-Jump nowadays as the magazine that publishes Dragon Ball Super. That November, the special issue was called The Power of Anime, the greatest stories of all time, featuring a special manga titled Zenkai Miracle, Z Power Men, focused entirely on the creation of the Dragon Ball Z anime. The author was a V-Jump editor who gathered testimonies from everyone involved, and wrote it under the pseudonym of Ken Muto, with art by Takeshi Okano, creator of Hell Teacher. The manga was later republished in Dragon Ball Tenkaichi Densetsu, which is why the bios I'm about to read have references from after the story came out. As far as I know, there's not even a fan English translation of this, so I had to translate it from an Italian fan translation by Teen Saiyajin. First, we start with the introduction of all the players. We have the usual suspects. Akira Toriyama, the extremely famous author of Dragon Ball. He debuted in 1978 with the short story Wonder Island. Afterwards, he created two bestsellers in succession, Dr. Slump and Dragon Ball. Kozo Morishita, producer from the former Toei Doga, now Toei Animation. He took over during the TV broadcast of Dragon Ball. He was also responsible for Dragon Ball Z and, of course, Dragon Ball GT. Kenji Shimizu, producer from Fuji TV Network. He was involved with the production from the beginning of Dragon Ball's TV broadcast. He also worked on many successful Jump adaptations, like Yu Yu Hakusho and Kochikame. Minoru Maeda, animator in charge of character designs for the Dragon Ball anime, a veteran with vast experience. He also worked on Dr. Slump and Captain Tsubasa. Takao Koyama, in charge of writing and organizing the screenplays, including for the movies, for the Dragon Ball series. His works include hits like Saint Seiya and Time Bokan. He's said to be the highest paid screenwriter in the world. Kazuhiko Torishima, first editorial supervisor for the Dragon Ball manga. Toriyama denies it. It's rumored that he used Torishima as the model for Piccolo. He had no mercy when it came to rejecting drafts. Or so they say. Yu Kondo, second editor involved in the manga's supervision. He came in after Torishima and helped guide the series to perfection. Despite his gentle demeanor, it's rumored Toriyama used him as the model for Frieza. The story kicks off with a fun little meta moment, where kids are watching Dragon Ball Z on the TV. The manga tells us how the anime is the highest rated one on Fuji TV, and that many readers of the manga watch it, never missing an episode. But then, something seems off. One of them notices something weird about the episode, a deja vu if you will. The kid realizes that he's only recently seen this go down. Didn't that chapter just drop in Shonen Jump? How is it already animated and airing on TV? They've said it takes months to make an episode, so how the hell did this one show up almost instantly? Well, this story will answer all your questions. You'll witness the intense battle faced by the men producing DBZ at the cost of their lives. A grand spectacle where blood and sweat, tears and laughter come together to create this documentary in manga form. And here they are, the real Z fighters behind Dragon Ball Z. And my favorite part of this manga, all of the team drawn as the characters. My favorite one is Koyama, who looks absolutely insane as Tien, and he's copying a feel from Morishita for whatever reason. Our journey begins in Nagoyama, Aichi Prefecture, where Godzilla and a bunch of other kaiju are currently attacking. But one legendary fortress, Bird Studio, remains untouched. In the shape of Toribot's face, it's the home of the genius behind Dragon Ball himself, Akira Toriyama. Pen in hand, deadline looming, and drawing faster than light. He's in the zone, drawing up the next chapter. Toriyama finishes the page with a war cry and throws down the next one like it's a ki blast, handing the finished one to his assistant, saying, "Tones, blacks, grays, now!" His assistant is stunned. Toriyama is going extra hard this week, but really, Toriyama's always like this. The grind at Bird Studio never stops. It's funny because Toriyama says that he's really lazy, but when you actually look at the amount of work he did, I think he was just being a little hard on himself. This is what the real Bird Studio looks like if you're curious. Enter the GOAT of the studio, Toriyama's wife. Not only is she serving refreshments, she's cheering him on through the epic finale of the Frieza fight. This week, Toriyama is drawing 15 battle pages. His wife is terrified, but Toriyama's just casually riding the wave, encouraging his assistant. Seriously though, 15 action pages in 1 week is insane, and he did this weekly. Interestingly, Toriyama's wife, Nachi Mikami, was a mangaka herself, and came up with a name for the Kamehameha. Mrs. Toriyama had a bad feeling about this, as Toriyama happily says, "Oh boy, I sure hope drawing so much action doesn't have disastrous effects on the anime." Back at Toei Animation, two titans of the anime staff, Takao Koyama and Kozo Morishita, are about to learn what Toriyama's 15-page flex
adds up to trouble.
All that action looks amazing on paper, but in anime form, 15 full pages of fighting translates to like 10 seconds of animation. So, they're cooked. Koyama breaks, hulking out and rampaging. The staff is terrified. Morishita is trembling. The office in ruins. Because of this much action, the anime is going to catch up to the manga instantly, with no way to turn 10 seconds into a full episode. Morishita has a revelation. Slow motion. Not just a little, but every punch, every scream, every stare down, slowed down to a crawl. A punch that would normally take 1 second could be stretched out to a whole minute of animation to make it really dramatic. Koyama is thrilled. Now he can really stretch out a script. But when they present the idea to Fuji TV producer Kenji Shimizu, he's horrified. No one would ever want to watch a show this slow, but they also don't really have an option, and kids are gonna love it anyways. With this strategy in mind, the team take their idea to the one man who has the power to approve it, Kazuhiko Torishima, and he rejects it. This was basically Torishima's catchphrase. Toriyama has often talked about how it haunted him ever since Torishima discovered him. But why did he reject this idea? He explained that, "We just got to great action, this is the good part, and you want to kill the pacing?" A lot of Dragon Ball fans have a lot to say about him because of some things he said, but it seems like he really did care about Dragon Ball. In fact, he's the one that insisted on the rebrand to Z. He thought the original Dragon Ball anime wasn't up to snuff, and it could be better. Anyways, Torishima doesn't miss, he doesn't flinch, he just destroys their hopes and dreams, while picking his nose. He tells them that it's a completely unusable script, and that they need to correct it, as they beg and plead with him. Without any more manga to look at for guidance, what are they gonna do? They're just going to catch up. They even call Torishima the devil himself. Torishima just ignores them, while he goes out for a smoke and admires a cute girl. Just when things are looking hopeless, a new presence enters the room. This is Yu Kondo, Toriyama's current editor, and rumor has it that he was the model for Frieza. He asks what two grown men are doing begging on the floor. Kondo began his career by working on shoujo manga, stories aimed at girls, and pushed for Trunks as a character to draw in more female fans. So of course, he's drawn as the prettiest person on the page. With everyone drowning in chaos, Kondo calmly lights a cigarette and drops an obvious solution. Why not just have Toriyama fax the storyboards ahead of time? It's a game-changing idea. Toriyama did actually refuse to get a fax machine for a long time until they forced him to. So getting the manga in advance means more prep time for the anime team, and a lot fewer meltdowns. Torishima claims that it was actually his idea, and that Kondo must have just been reading his mind. And so Toriyama sends them over right away, and the whole production gets ahead. Koyama would get the storyboards and finally go full power and write out his scripts with a clear vision. But they weren't all out of the woods just yet. In the animation department, animation director Minoru Maeda suffered. Everyone else was celebrating Kondo's genius fax plan, but the result was rough, scribbly storyboards, which were a nightmare to animate and interpret. Things only got worse when his assistant animators started to scream at him to finish those keyframes so they can start animating. For context, keyframes are the main poses in animation, which define the beginning, middle, and end of a motion. Maeda draws those, and the assistant fills in the in-betweens. With no options left, Maeda has only one path forward: become Toriyama. He's been working on adapting his manga for so long that he needs to embody the man and imagine exactly what Toriyama was picturing. He channels every line, every pose, every color, until the anime moves like it was drawn by the master himself. And with that, the episode makes it to the final steps: coloring, editing, and finally, Masako Nozawa and the other voice actors bring the characters to life. We then see one more step before it makes it to air: quality control! All the anime staff gathered together in the projection room, ready to see the final product. The Fuji TV producer admits that if the team couldn't pull this off, then he already had his resignation letter written out. And so the lights dim and they watch. For just one episode of Dragon Ball Z, countless people gave everything they had. Blood, sweat, tears, bending time, and breaking deadlines. All for 30 minutes of joy. I think that as we watch the shows we love, we often forget those who worked so hard for us to enjoy it. Because when that first frame flickers on screen, even the most weary adult becomes a kid again, at the sight of Goku and his friends. That's the magic of animation, the miracle of Dragon Ball Z. And I think it's amazing those behind the scenes got this manga as a little tribute. Sometime later, over at Toei, the team finally get a moment to breathe. The crisis was averted, the episode aired. But Koyama isn't one to rest. He proudly reveals that he's already finished a filler arc, and he even has a movie script in his back pocket. This time, they'll take things in a new direction, break away from the manga for a bit, and tell an original story with some focus on another character. But just as they start pitching this big idea, a fax arrives. It's the new Dragon Ball Ruffs. And instantly, everything falls apart. One of the main characters, the one they wanted to give focus on the arc, dies. The entire arc they wrote is completely useless. They don't say who the character is, but given the time period, it was probably Krillin, being blown up by Frieza and all. And this time, Koyama isn't alone in hulking out. And so, the rewrites begin. But they should have expected this. It's difficult to write original stories with someone as brilliant and unpredictable as Toriyama at the helm. While chaos ensues, back home, Toriyama watches the finished episode with his family, and he says that it turned out amazing. And that was the Zenkai miracle indeed. This story reminds us that behind every frame of Dragon Ball Z was a team of passionate, overworked, and unhinged creatives doing everything they could to bring Toriyama's work to life. I mean, just think about it. It's gotta be a hugely overwhelming task to adapt one of the most beloved manga of all time. And as much as I love the manga, and do think is the definitive product, most of us fell in love with the series because of the anime. The fights, the music, the voice acting, the pacing, the drama, and all of that existed only because people cared enough to make it happen, even when it nearly broke them. Whether you discovered Dragon Ball through Toonami, Kai, or a random YouTube clip,
For 9,000!
the anime was the gateway, especially here in the West. It made us fans, and it's thanks to those unsung heroes, the Z Power Men, that it was able to happen at all. But read the original manga, don't become a stereotype.